How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode here of the This Eye Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts, Summer Desai, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of This Eye Guys, Mr. Tad Desai. And Tad, at this point, it just seems pointless to keep doing the contest, but,
Choo, train's on the way, baby.
It's seriously like, I think we have 5 weeks left to go, and you have, I think, 8 wins or something like that. I only have 2.
I
It's
lost
like,
count at this point.
yeah, it's pretty much that one-sided that it's like, yeah, you can make a joke like that, and it's like, yeah, totally true. It's just like, what's the point of you counting? So, yeah, it's clearly like, very one-sided. It's been, all you've been dominating every single week so far. But yeah, we'll keep going through the rest of the season just to see how many wins you can get to, obviously. And yeah, obviously, with that, we definitely want to keep supporting all of you guys out there with all of your DFS help. So we want to get to you some DFS value players for this week as well as we head into week 14. Tad, let's not waste any more time here. Who do you like as far as a good value player for this week here in week 14 for DFS?
So I feel like I say this every week, but I looked at this guy's value. I'm like, that has to be wrong, right? And I was like, no, that's not wrong. And it's Cordaro Patterson. I can't believe I'm saying that. I've been doubting this guy all season. Even after it was like, okay, he's clearly the Falcons' number one back. I kept saying like, yeah, but I still think he's gonna have a bad week. And for the most part, he's had a couple down weeks, but for the most part, he has been proving me wrong. So finally, okay, you got me, Cordaro. You got me. I'm your guy now. I'm going to bat for you, which probably means he's going to have 5 points, but I really hope not. So Cordaro Patterson at $6,900, nice, against the Carolina Panthers. I know what you don't shake your head. That was a gold joke right there. I know what you must be thinking.
See, it would have worked better if you said $6,900.
I know,
but you said
I know,
$6,000, so you just screwed it up.
I was trying to go for the subtlety there. I was trying to go for the subtlety because I'm a comedic genius. Kind of. I don't know. As my league, I started writing league newsletters like 3 weeks ago. I don't think it's going very well, but we'll see how that goes. Being commissioner is hard, man. I don't like it. But anyway, I'm kidding before Jimmy shoots me a text, be like, well, if you don't like it, give it, but no, you're not getting it back. Anyway, sorry, side tangent. But Cordaro Patterson going up against the Carolina Panthers. I know what you guys must be thinking of, like, what are you doing picking a unproven running back on a bad offense as good value against the second best run defense in fantasy football? So yes, believe it or not, Carolina is still the second ranked defense against the run in fantasy football. Say what you will about this team. Yes, they've had a very, very weird season, but that defense is clearly the best side of the ball on that team. But here's why I'm doing this. There are 2 reasons. One, he being Cordaro Patterson, has absolutely been killing it in the last few weeks. He's gone for 15 points or more in 3 of his last 5 games. And kind of like my wide receiver targets thing, he's had 15 touches or more in 3 of his last 4 games. So by touches, I know people are going to look at me and try, action me of like, oh, well, you only had 13 carries 2 weeks ago. See, I said touches, not carries. So he's getting a lot of attention in that passing game too. So that's what I really like about Cordaro Patterson is he's very versatile. That's what happens when you have a running back that wears number 84. I'm never going to get used to it, but that's what happens. So my second reason for liking him is his last game against Carolina a couple of weeks ago, he ended up scoring 19 points. So he's already proven he can succeed against this defense. Also, with Christian McCaffrey gone and Cam Newton still kind of iffy, this Panthers team is probably going to struggle a little bit more than they have been, and that's saying something. So I could definitely see them putting their defense in some bad positions. So we'll talk about this in our betting segment. The winner of this game, I think, will be a very different result, but I think the best fantasy player to come out of Carolina versus Atlanta will be Cordaro Patterson.
Yeah, it's safe to say, a lot of people sort of dismissed, like, when he started to break out way early in the season, that's like, all right, that's just a 1 or 2 fluke game, we'll go back to Mike Davis, he'll, our
what
breakup guy that we had.
Say that? No one on this podcast ever said that. I'm coming.
Yeah, but for some reason, it just never happened, never materialized for Mike Davis. Like, it's just very shocking that it just never worked out for him. And, it's all been Cordaro Patterson absolutely killing in this offense.
I think I said it on, Monday's episodes. That's what I love is last week was really the first week where Mike Davis really, blew up finally. The performance we were kind of expecting from him. The only reason is because Cordaro Patterson was playing safety. And, he's just going to do both. Like the Falcons are so beat up, it is just beyond ridiculous.
Yeah, so even against a tougher defense like Carolina, I think the biggest thing is just like you said, it's just because the offense is going through some struggles. They have Cam Newton back. They just fired the offensive coordinator Joe Brady, so it's like we're going to be. It's going to be interesting to see how this offensive, scheme is going to look.
Remember
the philosophy.
When we were talking about like, will he be a head coach next year?
Yeah, I don't know.
Damn.
I don't know. It was very surprising.
We definitely, hey, guys, I don't know what you remember, but we definitely did not run a will Joe Brady revive Sam Darnold's career. I don't ever remember running that segment.
But yeah, so Cordaro Patterson, I think, has a very good shot to do some really good damage against the Carolina Panthers defense because the offense is so lackluster. The defense, as good as it is, it's like, I've said this before, it's just the defense is just going to get tired. They're going to get fatigued, and eventually they're going to give up these plays a little bit by a little bit, and that's where, Cordaro Patterson being one of the more focal points of this offense, he's going to have a pretty good game because of that. So, yeah, surprisingly against the second-rate defense, like you said, with the Carolina Panthers, he's still going to have a pretty good day on Sunday against the Panthers. So, good pick there with Patterson. I'm going at the quarterback position with my first pick here, and I'm going with Joe Burrow versus my San Francisco 49ers. The big thing here is that he is only $6,000. Now, before you say that this is amazing value, there is a caveat with that $6,000.
Big caveat.
He has a pinky injury, which he suffered in last week's game against the Chargers. He tried throwing on the sidelines. It was hurting him. He did play through the majority of the game. He's been practicing this entire week. It's still nagging him a little bit, but there's no, there's a maybe 90% chance he's going to play. There's still that 10% chance that he may not play, but most likely he's going to play through the injury. It's just the biggest thing is that's the reason why his priced so low is because if he plays, it's just I don't know how effective he's going to be. Yet I put him as a good value player here because he's playing a San Francisco 49ers defense that, against Seattle is just God, that game was just so frustrating in so many ways. It was it was a great game.
No, it wasn't.
It was a great game. It shouldn't have been flexed out for Kansas City, Denver, if you're gonna put it that way.
Was worse. Yeah, that
was a way better game.
Yeah,
you got you got a fake punt. You got George Kittle going off. You got multiple turnovers. It was a great game to watch. Should have been still in prime time, but that's that's besides the point. But just that defense clearly let Russell Wilson and the Seahawks back. They barely did anything in the second half. This secondary is an absolute joke. They got Josh Norman starting at one quarter, and I know he has 6'4" fumbles,
punching receivers' butts all over the place. What's going on here?
Exactly, and it's just he's letting up these deep passes. It's just he's not as elite defender as he once was. One of their better defenders on the secondary, Emmanuel Mosley, he's going to be out for the game, as well as their safety, Jaquiski Tartt's also going to be out for the game. So this is a secondary you could take advantage of, especially with Cincinnati having a pretty good offensive line. I don't know how much of a pass rush the San Francisco 49ers are going to be able to get. I do like the Nick Bosa versus Joe Burrow matchup, the former Ohio State Buckeye matchup there, but besides Bosa, it's it hasn't really been anybody else. So that's where Joe Burrow, even with the, injured pinky, I think he's still going to get enough time to throw. Maybe he's not going to have exceptional numbers, but for $6,000 to get Joe Burrow at this price, I think he'll slowly, with the practicing, I think he may tape up that finger, obviously, once they get into the game. I think he'll be just fine. So maybe he's not going to put elite numbers, but I think for $6,000, you can get pretty good value for that return. So yeah, it is a little bit of a riskier play, but I still like that risk because I think it's going to be a fair, moderate return for that price. So, I like Joe Burrow this week.
Okay, so 3 things with that. First off, if you don't understand my punching butts joke, just go on Twitter, look up Josh Norman. Was it Adam Thielen or Justin Jefferson? I think it was Thielen.
I believe it was Thielen. Yeah.
Okay. So just look that up because I'm sure some of our viewers who may not know are just the hell is he talking about? So I'm not a weirdo. He actually punched a dude's butt. But second, I really hate Ohio State. How many colleges can really say hey, we had former number 1 overall pick as our third stringer?
Yeah.
They're the worst. I hate them so much, but it's okay because Michigan beat them. So, 3, look, your argument actually does hold water. When I first saw your pick, I was ready to really come at you for it, but you're right. I think he can put up good numbers, but I could also see this being a total disaster. Because look, first off, I know what some people may say. I'm not trying to compare myself to Joe, an NFL athlete. All I'm saying is, for those of you watching on YouTube, look at this. All right, so normal looking hand, right? Okay. This right here is because I broke my pinky when I was in high school at the base right here. It was bent totally the wrong way, and still, so I can do like the Star Trek thing on this hand. I like physically cannot do it on this hand. Okay? Like when you break your pinky, that seriously screws with your hand. And I've also broken my thumb. Like anytime you break a finger, shocker, everything you do, just the most simple task, becomes 10 times harder. So you're right. Let's not even entertain this thought that he's not going to play. He's going to play. So he's going to play, but I'm not totally confident in his ability to perform well. So could he put up like pedestrian numbers and still get you like 15, 16 points, which yes, it's $6,000, well worth the price. Sure. But I could see this also being a total disaster where he throws like 3 picks and then they have to bench him because they're like, okay, you're just not good to go. Because, look, having that type of injury, which I believe, was it on his throwing hand?
It is on his throwing hand, so that is going to affect him a little bit more than if it was his non-throwing hand. I think if it was a non-throwing hand, I think it would have been a non-issue.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't care at all. But the fact that it's on his throwing hand makes me pretty concerned. So that's my only thing is that's if you really want to swing for the fences, go for it. But just be aware that I think that has some real potential to really backfire on you.
It does. It does. It does come with some risk when you do play him. But like I said, I still think he's going to get enough value for you that if you're saving the dollars, paying only $6,000 for your quarterback, you could save and pay a little bit more to get some other players on the rest of your position, on your rest of your lineup, at running back, receiver, tight end, obviously. So that's why I'm sort of siding with the risk there. But yeah, 100% agreed. This is not like a surefire home run. He's going to do QB1 typical numbers. It's going to be a little bit more moderate. So just take that into consideration when you're building out your roster this week. Tad, let's jump into another player that you like here as far as Week 14 DFS value players here.
Amir, maybe you can explain this one to me because this was super confusing to me as well. I feel like I say that with every player, but screw it. We're going to keep going with it. Is Josh Jacobs is valued at $6,200 going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? That makes no sense to me. So Josh Jacobs has been on a hugely good run the last few weeks. And get this, he tied Hunter Renfro in receptions last week, not targets. Because I know what people are going to think, okay, you get 9 targets as running back. He gets like 3 of them, like a third. That's pretty good for running back, which it is. No. He had 9 receptions. So he tied Hunter Renfro, who is just like a reception vacuum. Hunter Renfro, and I'm not doing this because of the race thing, is basically like our generation, like I'm not, old already, is this generation's Wes Welker. It's like he's always finds himself open in the middle of the field, and he never quite scores that much. But anyway, I'm going on a Hunter Renfro thing, but Josh Jacobs is just, he's going off the last couple of weeks, and with Kenyan Drake out, his role is only going to increase. So he's had back-to-back weeks with 90 scrimmage yards and a touchdown. That's only going to go up with Kenyan Drake out. I know you mentioned Peyton Barber is now going to step up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Peyton Barber, sure. Is he going to take a little bit away from Jacobs? Absolutely, but I think they're going to, rather than include Peyton Barber that much more, they're going to obviously include him a little bit more just as the backup. But I think that will lead to an increased role with Josh Jacobs more. So I don't understand how this dude is, $1,700 cheaper than a guy who's going to get as many touches as most running back ones on the level. I want to say Chris McCaffrey, but he's hurt. Let's see who's not hurt. So many people are hurt. Derrick Henry. No, hold on. Joe Mixon. There we go. We'll go Joe Mixon. So I think Josh Jacobs will get as many touches as Joe, or similar to Joe Mixon, that, I don't understand how he's that much cheaper. So I think this is the steal of the week right here.
It is excellent value for only $6,200 to get Josh Jacobs. The only thing that I could possibly consider is that maybe because Kansas City doesn't have as good of a pass defense, that maybe the Raiders will lean more on passing the game. But I do know you said that he has 9 receptions, so it's like if he gets more involved and stays in the passing game, then it's like that's excellent value there. But just that's the only thing that I could possibly think as to why his value is a little bit lower.
Here's the weird thing is because I was like, wow, maybe Kansas City's rush defense, because I actually had that exact same thought. I was like, okay, maybe the rush defense has really stepped up their game. Now they're 18th in run defense and fantasy. So it's like, I that price is just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, no, it is really good value, so it's definitely a guy that you should probably build your lineup around. I think that's, he's going to get a lot of touches there. They're playing Kansas City, divisional opponent. The AFC West is still pretty tight, so it's they're going to be fighting to obviously claw their way back into the playoff picture. They're still in the hunt for a wild card spot, so yeah. definitely it's going to be a closer game, and Josh Jacobs will get involved a lot for sure. So really good value there for 6,200. I'm going to go to the wide receiver position here, and I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy of the Denver Broncos. So he's playing the Detroit Lions this week, and he's only 50. So it's pretty good value because you have to look at the fact that, majority of the season, Jerry Jeudy has been out. He missed half the games that the Broncos have played. So the Broncos have played 12 games so far. He's missed six of them with a high ankle sprain that he suffered way back in the beginning of the season. So since returning to the field, though, in Week 8, Judy has 30 targets total, which leads all of Denver players in that same span between Weeks 8 and Week 12. So, Teddy Bridgewater is clearly going to him more than your Courtland Sutton, your Tim Patrick, your Noah Fant. So I really like the fact that Jerry Jeudy is going to get more involved because everybody was sort of expecting when this season began that Jerry Jeudy was going to fix some of the issues that he had in his rookie year with lots of drops and just, not looking like that first round pick. Like we saw flashes of it, but not consistently. So everybody thought heading into his second year, he's going to be able to put it all together, having an additional training camp, a little bit of the preseason possibly, but just this was going to be like a breakout year for him. He's really going to put it all together. And unfortunately, the injury sort of derailed him. Maybe we'll see it now in his third year, but we're seeing him getting a lot of targets with Teddy Bridgewater there. I really like him. So unfortunately with the injury, he has not had a 100-yard receiving game this year so far. I expect it to happen this week against the Detroit Lions because, I talked about this during the waiver wire episode. Just the Lions are, I love that they got their first win. That's excellent for them, but they're playing a very tough Broncos team. I expect them to rebound after that bad showing against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday night. So, yeah, I like Jerry Jeudy to have his first 100-yard game this season against the Lions. And overall, I like the Broncos offense to have a pretty good day. We've already talked about Javonte Williams and his breakout party against the Chiefs. It's going to continue against the Lions, continue the rest of the season as well. But I still like Jerry Jeudy to have a very good game as well. So for only $5,600, you get a pretty good receiver for that price.
Yeah, I actually really like this pick as well because, I'm actually not going to justify that with talking up Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to justify that by talking down to Courtland Sutton. Guess when the last time Courtland Sutton scored over 10 points?
I'll say back early in the season, probably like week 1 or 2.
Oh, come on, give him a little bit more credit than that. It was week 6.
Oh, week 6. Okay.
Come on. It was a whole 2 months ago, not 3.
Okay, sorry.
It was week 6 against the Las Vegas Raiders, and everyone's been wondering, what's going on with Courtland Sutton, blah, blah, blah. He was looking good. Well, what happened is Jerry Jeudy came back. And, yeah, exactly. Somehow Sutton has fallen to the fourth option in this offense because it's Fant in no particular order. It's Fant, Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick. And Sutton, for whatever reason, is just not Teddy Bridgewater's type of receiver. So someone on this Broncos offense is going to go off. If it's Fant, if it's Judy, I don't think it'll be Patrick, but if it's Patrick, whatever. Someone is going to have a good week. And, yeah, for that price, I really, really like, just writing that game. Well, that's going to be Judy.
Yeah. Agree with that one. So, Tad, let's get into our final player here. You actually bucked the trend that we usually had. We usually go 2 good and 1 bad.
You know what?
But you came to us with 3 good players. Is this the holiday season? You're in more of a giving mood? Is that what it is?
Exactly. It's the holiday season. I'm feeling generous. I just started my job. I have to be positive in front of all these kids and everything. So, you know what? I said screw it. I don't hate anyone this week. I like 3 players this week. Well, especially because in reality, the actual reason was this value was too good not to talk about. And honestly, we don't want to, have you guys watching for 40 straight minutes. So I was just like, okay, I have to make a call here. So this value was so good that yes, for the first time all season, I do not have an overvalued player. There's no such thing as that. That's not true. But anyway, if you want to hear our picks for overvalued players, hit me up on Twitter at TadDesign94 right below there, or hit us up show account at Design Guys. But anyway, moving on. Rob Gronkowski is currently valued at $6,000, which kind of makes sense because, see, look at that. I went from it makes no sense to, okay, I can kind of get it. Because, when it comes to tight ends, that's kind of on the upper echelon, lower to mid-tier on the upper echelon, more expensive tight ends. But he's still $2,000 cheaper than 2 or 3 other tight ends out there. And why? Did they not see the game he just had last week against the Falcons? And I'm not even going to read off the stats because they're the same goddamn stats we've been looking at for the past 10 years. Tom Brady likes throwing it to Rob Gronkowski. And I guess I kind of understand because they're playing the Bills. But, I mean, again, like, it's the Bills. So the Bucs, it's going to be a close game, which means they're not going to abandon the pass, which means more target opportunities for Gronk. So even if he doesn't score that much, he's still going to get a lot of target opportunities, which will lead to more receptions. So especially if you're in a PPR league in DraftKings, that's going to help you out arguably even more. So, I again, for once in my life, I'm not actually going to read off a bunch of stats that probably put you guys half to sleep. I'm just going to say it's Brady to Gronk. Gronk's not the most expensive tight end. Go for it.
Yeah, so DraftKings is default PPR with all their contests. So, yeah, definitely all the receptions are there. And then you also have to throw in the fact here, Tad, that it's like playing the Bills, they have a tougher defense. And so when you're playing a tougher defense, you want to go to a more experienced receiver that you've played with for a long time. Like Brady and Gronk, obviously, they have a huge history. So it's like he knows that it's like if he sees something in the Bills defense, he can sort of, give the subtle signals to Gronk and he'll understand and be like, okay, yeah, this is, cut your route here a little bit. Okay, sit in the gap in this position here. So I know he has that sort of experience with, veteran receivers like Evans and Godwin, but he definitely has that with Gronkowski.
And Antonio Brown. Oh, wait a minute.
So definitely he has that with Gronkowski. So you could see probably that he may go to him a little bit more against a tougher defense in Buffalo. So yeah, I think, even though with the 6,000, maybe a little bit more than you want to pay for the tight end position, but even against a tougher defense, it's still a good matchup because yeah, I think you may rely on him more for those crucial first down conversions once they get into the red zone, obviously, and just overall throughout that game when they're passing, he may look his direction more often. So yeah, I agree. That's excellent value because I think he's really going to turn in a good game on Sunday against the Bills. So,
dude, Brady and Gronk could be going against the 2000 Ravens, and I would still say, bet on them. Like they're
Very
a little
true.
cheap. Gronk is the guy that you draft in Madden from like an automated draft class, and you're just like, this is not real. Like, look at him. Like, that's just no human is built like that, and it's just he's a polar bear, man. That is a polar bear that they taught how to catch.
Exactly. So yeah, excellent value there. I'm going to go into one of my bad value players though, is that Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals. He is $9,200 this week, the most expensive receiver in DFS, per the usual. He's
by a fair amount as well.
Yeah, he's usually been the most expensive receiver. So the thing that, is the huge issue for me is that, recent news has surfaced that he's dealing with an injury. So he's been questionable so far throughout of all of practice. He's been limited in practice. Like, most likely he's still going to play because he's a key part of that offense anyway. So I think he's going to play through it. But here's a bigger factor is that in week 4, the Rams and the Cardinals, they played each other. Kupp was contained by the Arizona Cardinals. He only totaled 5 receptions for 64 receiving yards and 0 touchdowns off of 13 targets. So it's not like they were not throwing it to him. Just Cardinals were just playing better defense. So they prevented him from actually doing anything. And so here's the other additional fact on top of that. Every other game Cooper Kupp has played in, he's had at least 7 receptions and at least 90 receiving yards. So that just tells you what a good job the Cardinals have done. And on the flip side, tells you how amazing of a season Cooper Kupp has been having this year. Like every other game, 7 receptions at least and 90 receiving yards. So that's just insanity. But yeah, for some reason, the Cardinals have the magic formula to limit his production. Now, obviously with the bye week, hopefully, things can sort of change, but here's another factor as to why I don't like Cooper Kupp. We kind of brought this up during our waiver wire episode. The addition of Odell Beckham Jr. He's getting comfortable in this offense now. Van Jefferson is still being involved a lot.
So actually, Van Jefferson is more involved. So in last week's game, Van Jefferson was on the field for, I forgot to write it down. It's either 7 or 17. I was probably 7. 7 more snaps than OBJ.
Yeah, so Odell Beckham Jr.
But,
still getting...
OBJ is your third receiver. Like, good God. That's just... I hate them. I had to sit through 2 and 14 for so many damn seasons in St. Louis, but now, sure, go for it.
Exactly. So it's like, even though he may be still getting used to the offense, he's still being involved enough now that they have the bye week. So he's like got a little bit extra time to prepare. But just like, yeah, exactly like you said, Van Jefferson's been there the entire time. So he's more familiar with the system. He's going to get involved a little bit more. We talked about this before. The running game is starting to develop a little bit more. Daryl Henderson, obviously without Daryl Henderson the previous week, Sonny Michel had an excellent game. So it's just like, yeah.
Now he does it. Not when I draft him in the preseason, but now all of a sudden he's good. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's like all these other factors are playing into Cooper Kupp's production. So it's like, yeah, I think the big factor though is that Arizona's defense, they're actually in a clinching scenario, Tad. I don't know if you know this, but they just need to win, and they have clinched themselves a playoff berth. So they're definitely going to be playing extra hard. So they're definitely going to be working their magic to sort of limit what Cooper Kupp and the rest of the Rams offense can do. So yeah, for $9,200, it's like, maybe Cooper Kupp will do okay, but just it doesn't warrant spending that much money for him. So, yeah, stay away from him if I were you this week.
So I just looked it up. I was actually wrong. It was 17. So Van
There you
Jefferson
go. Wow, it's even bigger.
was on the field for 17 more snaps than OBJ was. And don't forget the stat I shared with you guys last week. In the past however many weeks, 3 or 4, Van Jefferson has seen just as many red zone targets as Jamar Chase. So Van Jefferson's still a very, very dangerous target. He is filled in for Robert Woods flawlessly. So, look, again, I'm not saying I don't think a Murray is either that Cooper Kupp is going to bust and only have like 5 points or something, but for 9,200, you better be getting me like 30 points, dude. I don't think he's locked to do that.
Yeah, so in your standard season-long dynasty and, all of those type of leagues, start Cooper Kupp for sure. Like, you obviously still want to start him, but in DFS, when you have a choice, you're better off going with other options, some cheaper options that can get you some better value on the price that you're paying. So, yeah, we kind of went against the grain with today's episode. We got you 5 good players and we got you 1 overvalued player. So, but yeah, like Tad said earlier, we definitely have more players out there to help you out with some good value, some bad value, help you build out your rosters. And you can find us all at our Twitter accounts at the ticker below. You got my handle under the side 23. You got Tad's at Tad the side 94. You got the show handle D Decide, guys. Interact with us. We want to see your lineups. If you need some advice on who you should start at the flex position, is it worth it to pay for, a certain player, we're here to give you that advice. That's what we're here for. And besides that, it's obvious the sports betting is coming later this week. We talked about the waiver wire earlier in the week. We do a lot of things here on the This Side Guys Football Forum. We're happy to have everybody that tunes in to the YouTube and the podcast and everything in between. And we appreciate everybody who's a follower, who gave us a good rating on the podcast, who listens, who watches. There's anything and everything in between. Guys, we really just can't thank you guys enough.
Appreciate the views, guys.